He's the former president and publisher of the Sun Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome to Coast View, the show that celebrates the men and women who are making coastal Mississippi such a great place to live, work, and play. And as I promised, I had Tony Kennon last Friday, the mayor of Orange Beach, and we talked about how things are going in Orange Beach. He's an old friend. We worked together during the BP oil spill. And as promised, we have the mayor of Gulf Shores today, Robert Kraft, also a dear friend, someone who we haven't talked in a while, but we really got to know each other well during the BP oil spill. And I became, one of his biggest admirers because he brings so much passion and love for his community. Anyway, good morning, Robert. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm good, Ricky. Good to see you again. Good to get a chance to visit.
Yeah, it's good. It really is. I'm sorry you're having to face this, but if you go back and preparing for this, it was a good reminder for me about the kind of issues you faced as mayor. Of course, you became mayor in 2008 and immediately had to deal with the economic downturn. And then you had the BP oil spill in 2010 and that vast aftermath. Then COVID-19. I'm sure there have been other challenges along the way, for sure. COVID-19. And then in the midst of the pandemic, you have Sally, which this was not a minor storm. The impact on your community was very significant. We're going to get to that in a second. But what I have always believed about, not only are you but you're an optimist. You really believe in your community. And, at a time when you could have long off and into the sunset, you've decided to be a public servant. What drives you, Robert?
Well, I have a great passion for this community and the people here. This is my home. I grew up here in this area and have raised 2 kids here, made a living here, worked here, and I care deeply about our world. And I am determined that we have the ability to be really great. And we're good, but I think that if we will manage ourselves and think a little further in the future and down the line, that we can be great. And I'm passionate to help this community be as good as it can be.
How, one of the things that I'd like to tell people in Mississippi, because coastal Mississippi is really important to the rest of the state. It's an economic engine because we have on one end, we have Ingalls Shipbuilding. On the other end, we have Stennis Space Center. In between, we have tourism and all that it brings to the table. But what I often said to people is that in Alabama, you get about 25% of the state's tourism dollar in about a 3-month period in one county. I mean, the tourism effort in Baldwin, and in particular Gulf Shores and Orange Beach, is critically important to this state, isn't it?
It really is. It is. We're providing the tax that dominates the whole state, the most important funding that we can give, and that's the issue. There is you can't really get it anywhere else.
Yeah.
The beaches in Alabama are confined to Gulf Shores, Orange Beach, and a little bit in Dauphin Island. So we've got very few opportunities to introduce Alabama to people a little differently than they normally think about Alabama.
Oh, boy, and isn't that the truth? And you've pandemic, you guys have had a really good season, haven't you?
We lost a couple of months of revenue, but we have, after the fact, people wanting to come back to the beach. And the reality of a lot of folks were out of work. A lot of kids were out of school. So as soon as we got our beaches clean enough and ready, and we were prepared enough to invite people back, and the state came up with rules that would protect us, then we were able to open back up, and we've had really good months up until now. So,
and the good news is
we haven't recovered everything yet, but we're back close.
Yeah. So, one of the points that Tony made is that the relationships that were developed during the oil spill have actually really helped you guys with really kind of kicking into gear pretty rapidly. I'm so pleased, for example, that former Congressman Joe Bonner is the chief of staff for the governor there. He was so deeply involved in the oil recovery efforts and such a passionate leader during that time. I bet he's been a good partner for you, hasn't he?
He is not only a good partner, he's a good friend of the coast, and he lives over in Point Clear, just south of Fairhope. So he's here now with his wife Janae, and they are frequent visitors for our community. So he shares the love and the passion and the understanding of how we operate and how much we have been damaged by certain events, particularly this. So he is helpful. He's been through Ivan. He's been through those and other storms, Katrina, Ivan primarily, and a list of numerous other smaller storms. But he's been through all of that, so he understands what we're up against. And it really is beneficial to have him in a position of leadership that is a direct connection to the governor.
He has, he made so many impacts. We had a really good relationship when I was in Alabama. And when I went over to New Orleans, the first phone call I got was from Congressman Steve Scalise. And the reason Steve called me was that Joe Bonner had told him, you need to get in touch with Ricky. He's going to be a good friend to you as we move forward. And, I always thank Joe Joe has all kinds of vision. Is focus on Sally was an interesting storm because it meandered about, the steering currents were terrible, and you guys did not prepare like you normally would. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, this showed up really quick, and we had a lot of folks in town, a lot of visitors in town, and then last minute evacuation, which was voluntary. We did not do a mandatory evacuation. Had we known where we are, we would have. But it blew up. It got even stronger as it got close to the coast. And it really, for us, was where most other storms have been a storm surge and of water and high wind event, particularly on the coast. This was totally different. This was more of a flood event in that it rained. We had over 30 inches of rain in our area over a long period of time. And it filled up we've got a waterway, intercoastal waterway on the northern side of our city. And we've got a lagoon in the middle, and we got the beach and the Gulf Beach on the southern end. All of those overflowed, all of them flooded. So we had a layer of water through almost all of our city, except those that are on really high ground. So it was a flood event, and it was unexpected.
Well, the last I saw, the lagoon was still high. Is it still high now?
It's still high now.
Man, that's when we go over, we have a little family reunion every other year, and the house we stay at is on the lagoon. We love it there. But I saw some aerial photographs from there, and I was surprised. But that's literally a big drainage basin, I assume, huh?
It is. Well, and all the rain that falls north of us ends up in the little lagoon, and then so everything that falls in southern Alabama ends up north of us ends up in the lagoon. And that flooding on top of what we had, and the fact that the Gulf was high, the lagoon drains into the Gulf. When the Gulf
right.
The lagoon can't drain. And it's kind of like the intercoastal waterway. They don't when Mobile Bay and then when in Pensacola area and our other bay on the other end, when they both get full, our waterway can't get out. So it was an accumulation of a lot of different elements that we've not seen before.
So we're about to come near the break now. When we come back from the break, I want to talk a little bit more about really zero in on this point, because we in coastal Mississippi were deeply concerned about the amount of rain coupled with storm surge, and not most of the drainage for your community and for ours goes into storm surge runoff areas that are attached to the Gulf. And once those get inundated with storm surge, there's really no way to get the water out, and that as you pointed out, it's a big part of the overall story. And then you have the ground saturation and the tree damage, and then the power grid damage, and then it's just a calamity. We'll pick that up on the other side of the break, but after we come back, we'll really zero into where you guys are today. So this is Mayor Robert Kraft from the city of Gulf Shores in Alabama, our neighbor, and we'll touch base with him a little bit more after this break.
You can also listen live to SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1 on your Amazon Alexa devices. Once you've enabled the skill, just say, Alexa, open SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast.
Get out of the house and over to Big Play today. 2 massive arcades, bowling, go-karts, 2 mini golf courses, a 2-story state-of-the-art laser tag arena, bumper cars, and right now get a $50 game card for only $25. Visit our station's Facebook and print on demand so you can play at Big Play Entertainment Center now. These deals won't last long, so make sure you get your half-off deal. Big Play Entertainment Center, Highway 90 Biloxi. Bowl, play, eat. Go to our station's Facebook to get your half-off deal now.
What decisions are being made by state lawmakers, and how will they affect you, your family, and community? If you listen, you'll know. SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk app, and at supertalk.fl.
Hi, I'm Billy Kinder, host of Big Billy Kinder Outdoors here. The show Saturdays at 1, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi. Turkeys, whitetail, Grenada Lake crappie, or Gulfport redfish. We enjoy it all, especially when you're in camp with us on SuperTalk Mississippi.
You could be spreading the coronavirus without realizing you have it, so do your part and stay home. It's important to limit in-person interaction with anyone outside of your immediate household, but phone and video chat are safe ways to connect. It's also important to limit social gatherings. If you need essential items like food and medicine, try using a delivery service. If you must leave your house for essential items, or if you want to take a walk for exercise, make sure to wear a cloth face covering. Stay at least 6 feet away from other people. Try not to touch frequently touched surfaces like light signals, street signs, or benches. And wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds as often as possible. This advice applies to people of any age, including teens and younger adults. It takes all of us to slow the spread of the coronavirus, so stay home unless absolutely necessary. Visit coronavirus.gov for the latest information.
Thousands of Bulldog fans have subscribed to the Thunder and Lightning podcast. Have you? On each episode, Brian Haydad and Joel Coleman give you an inside look at your Mississippi State Bulldogs. The Thunder and Lightning podcast is free and available on demand at supertalk.fm and on your smartphone. Just search for Thunder and Lightning on iTunes, Google Play, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Thunder and Lightning from SuperTalk Mississippi, covering the Bulldogs like no one else.
Hey, want to come work for the #1 radio group on the coast? TeleSouth Media has a great opportunity for an outside sales consultant. Get paid while having fun and work in the exciting, fast-paced world of radio. We have award-winning stations like 97.9 CPR Rocks, 105.9 The Monkey, G96.7, SuperTalk 103.1, and 103.5 The Possum. Take the first step towards a new and rewarding career. Submit your resume to Jesse at telesouth.com. That's JESSE at telesouth.com. TeleSouth Media is an equal employment opportunity employer.
Well, let me know if you're en route. Back.
19 Adam, to the unconscious, Main Street and West Road, 19 Adam.
A lot of people are just worried about supplies.
Our supplies are getting pretty low, and that gives us great concern.
Aside from the PPE issues, they're really worried about if they are exposed and they have to be away from work for a certain amount of time.
We're going to need some money there. And so that's one way the public can support us as well, is keep sending money into that support fund.
What I really truly hope is that people don't forget that feeling right now of wanting to volunteer and give back to their community.
I hope this doesn't dramatically change the volunteer fire service.
The stay-at-home orders, the new state flag, the mask mandates, the protests and riots in many of our nation's cities, the battle for the White House. So far, 2020 has been a year like no other, and only one radio station has covered it all from a Mississippi point of view, SuperTalk Mississippi. And hang on, because who knows what 2020 will bring us next. Whatever it is, SuperTalk will be right here to deliver it to you live. Listen in all 82 counties statewide. SuperTalk Mississippi.
Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View, the show that celebrates the men and women who are making coastal Mississippi such a great place to live, work, and play. And today we're having a conversation with the mayor of Gulf Shores. We're going to be talking to the superintendent of schools, Glenn East. in the next segment. But coming back to Mayor Kraft, my friend Robert, we went through the VP oil spill together, and man, I tell you what, that was a trying time. But boy, did we see people come together in incredible ways, didn't we, Robert?
We sure did, and that's why we recovered as well as we did from that, and we're seeing some of that here too.
I know you are. I mean, it just brings people together, and the relationships you can leverage for forever. So let's come back to this. The point that you were making, and this is the thing that coastal Mississippians needed to hear loud and clear. First of all, this was only supposed to be a Category 2. It may actually get upgraded to a Category 3 before this is over with. And I had Josh Morganman, who's the top hurricane chaser in the world, who I had him on the show yesterday, and he was over there and in Gulf Shores and ended up getting stuck in his car. He's been in 53 eye walls around the world, so this guy is not a rookie. But what happened is this thing just gained so much steam as it was getting close to the shore, and it was slow moving and had all that rain with it. I mean, it was devastating for your community, wasn't it, Robert?
It really was, and it reminded me of when Hurricane Michael went into Mexico Beach area over in Florida. It blew up just as it got close to the shore, which is not typically what we see. When Ivan came in, it decreased some as it was getting close to the shore, as did Frederick back in the day. So this trend of blowing up and getting stronger as I hope that doesn't continue, because it's hard to plan for something when it changes like that for you.
There are a couple of trends. One is the meandering storm with weak steering currents, coupled with a slow-moving storm. I mean, that's agonizing to see a storm that's moving that slow come through your community. That had to have been hell experiencing that.
It was a long, loud night for everybody in Gulf Shores, and I knew, and I think most of the folks that lived here of any time knew that this was bigger than expected, because it was rained so hard for so long. It's somewhat like a Katrina event, which Katrina for New Orleans was more of a flood event than it was a storm event. Mississippi got the storm, but New Orleans got the flood. We have a flood event here.
Yeah, so one of the things that Tony Kennan, the mayor of Orange Beach, for people who don't know the name, one of the things he said to me last Friday is they had over 100 calls, did over 60 rescues. Were you guys in the middle of the night, in the middle of the storm out there doing the same kind of thing?
Yes, we were. And we had 125 calls, but we couldn't get to some of them. But we did end up reaching out to every one of them. We had, I think during the storm, we had 50, about the same numbers as Orange Beach. We had to go out with human rescue, people where their homes were flooding, and we had to open up emergency shelters. Our only shelter in Baldwin County is in Robertsdale, and everyone that needed to evacuate did. But during the heat of the storm, we had to open up 2 emergency shelters in Gulf Shores where we could pick people up and take them to.
Wow. I mean, and then, there was one man who drowned in Orange Beach. He abandoned his boat. We don't know the reason for that yet, but we'll learn from that experience, because I think the woman who was with them, they found her and she was taken to the hospital. So we'll have some information about the choice they made to abandon their boat. But you had, based on the latest information I've seen, you've had no deaths in Gulf Shores, right?
We've had no deaths and really no critical injuries related to the storm. I mean, obviously we had some folks that were in ill health already that had some issues, but it wasn't storm related.
Yeah, I saw someone succumbed in Foley in the aftermath just over the last day or two. But I was studying the deaths for Hurricane Laura. You only had one. This is over in western Louisiana. You had one death. You had several people who died from trees, hitting their homes. And then several people who died in the aftermath from carbon monoxide poisoning. I bet that worries you, the generators and all of that.
It does, and we were very aware of that. And so our folks were out and broadcasting to everyone, if you're using a generator, be really careful, be prepared. People died during this, and you can't smell it, you don't know it, so assume that it's coming. We've not had any problems with that of significant. No one died that I'm aware of.
So no trees. I mean, even though you had a lot of tree damage, you had no trees that fell on the house that caused injuries or death. You didn't have anyone drown. What a testament to your first responders, Robert. That's incredible.
We're really blessed to have some very experienced folks that know what they're doing and are willing to get out in it and risk their life. They're special people that run towards the fire, run toward the storm, and where you and I would run away from it.
Wow, it's just incredible. So the power company had their hands full, but the forces came. So what's the status of your power situation today?
We have almost everyone has power. There's one little section in the middle of town. I'd say 90% of our folks have power. We have one area with the tree damage was just overwhelming. We had an area where the power ran in an alley in between houses, and it had grown up so tight and dense and then that's hard to get to. If it's on the street, you got a way to get to it, but if it's in an alley, it's hard to get through there for that. So that area is still, we hopefully will get power back to them tonight. But that and some of our West Beach area, right on the beach that had damage to in-ground transformers, those are the only two areas in our city that doesn't have power.
So one of the things that we talked about last week was that, and this was true for coastal Mississippi after Katrina, there were a lot of stick-built structures, and most of those were destroyed in Gulf Shores during Ivan. And most of the rebuilding that has occurred there has been concrete structures and very substantial structures. When you evaluate it today, did you build to sort of get tested in this situation, and how did you pass that test?
Very well, very well. It's interesting going back to the stick-built structures. Hurricane Frederick, which came through in 1979, was the first one that took all the old construction away. We built back from there with better structures, and the better structures made it through Ivan, but the rest of the stick-built stuff went away in Ivan. So most of our stuff now has been rebuilt, and not elevated under the new flood standards and fortified in a lot of cases. So we have learned over time, and what we have in our community today is much better than we've had. And after this, all of it will be better.
So your inventory overall is in pretty good shape. I mean, I'm sure there's maybe some roof leaks and some things like that you got to deal with, but in terms of the infrastructure to speak of, whether it be the city infrastructure, whether it be condominiums or hotels or whatever, you actually may have come out of this without too much long-term challenge.
Absolutely true. We have after the oil spill, we got money to fix things, and we built a substantial berm, a vegetative berm, all between the Gulf and the residential homes on the Gulf. So we've got as you probably remember, we've got a single-family beach area. Not all of ours is multifamily with concrete structures. There are homes down there, but the homes have been elevated, they're fortified, and we have, and with the berm, and the berm was quite large. It was about 10 feet tall and thick. It's about half gone. But so the berm kept water breached in only a couple of areas, and those are areas where we didn't have man-made walkovers over dune walkovers. It's where people were walking and the vegetation didn't take. So that berm construction, what we've learned over the years about how to manage sand and how to become resilient and protect these things made a huge difference in this storm.
Wow, that's really good to hear. I remember that very well. That was a high priority actually, and and this was a pretty darn good storm to test to test the whole theory. So how does beach erosion in general look for you guys?
We lost a lot of beach. And when Hurricane Nate came through, we lost a significant amount of sand on that. And we've got our engineered beach, if you remember. We're engineered beach, and so we've got publicly owned beach from a certain point to the water's edge. And we've lost a bunch of that during Nate. We've lost more than we lost in Nate here. So we believe we're going to have enough now to go ahead and start very quickly a renourishment program and start beaches back.
Yeah, I read a story on AL.com yesterday that said that the beaches are closed until Saturday. So what's the latest on all of that?
We're still working to see when we can bring tourists back. Our business community has suffered this year significantly with the COVID deal early on and the beaches being closed and no one taking vacations. That our business community has suffered, trying to get back open as soon as we can. But our issue now is we've got debris haulers here. Our contractors are here with big trucks hauling vegetative debris. And then you got the C&D, the construction debris, yet to pick up. and to get out of it. So we're going to have a lot of traffic and a lot of people moving around. But our hope is that we can be open Saturday for visitors to move in. Hadn't made that decision finally yet, but we're working with Tony at Orange Beach to see if we can come up with an agreement of when we open.
Mayor Robert Kraft in the city of Gulf Shores. That is extraordinary progress given the impact you guys had to deal with. And the thing for people in coastal Mississippi to hear is that they got hit hard. Their first responders did an amazing job. We didn't get into all the boat damage that you guys incurred. It was just very challenging storm. And to think that you guys are almost back up and running again, given the impact, really a testament to great leadership. I wish we had more time together, but it sure has been good catching up with you, Robert.
I agree, Rich.
Okay, buddy. Take care. We hope to see you soon. Good luck to you guys.
Thank you.
Glenn East from Gulfport coming on next.
Be sure to go by this station's website and check out the half-off deals. Audubon Zoo tickets for just $15. That's half price. $30 zoo tickets for just $15. Again, go to this station's website or Facebook. Look for the half-off deals logo to purchase yours now.
Heart attacks and strokes don't stay home. So don't avoid the ER out of anxiety. Don't die of doubt. If you have an emergency, call 911. When seconds count, the hospital is the safest place to be.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. Talking to Paul Thorne, Mississippi true treasure, really incredible recording artist, singer-songwriter, has been doing it a long time, doing it the right way.
It's almost like a Forrest Gump thing because, I was a boxer, / I worked in a furniture factory, / I had a gig 2 nights a week playing my acoustic guitar in a pizza restaurant, / I was in the National Guard, and
wow.
All this stuff was going on at the same time. / I had a writing contract with Rick Hall and Fame.
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk Mississippi app, and now available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
There's a place to share gossip about the office party fun, and a place to share the story you tell everyone. There's a place to share a laugh about when things went wrong, and a place to share the video of you dancing to your song. There's a place to share spare change, lunch, and your time. But we could all be better at sharing how we're feeling inside. 76% of employees have struggled with at least one issue that affected their mental health. When you share, you're not alone.
Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen.
Okay.
Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi, and now on Amazon Alexa devices.
This is House Call for Health. There may be no greater medical mystery and no greater tragedy than sudden infant death syndrome. It used to be known as crib death. For no apparent reason, a presumably healthy sleeping baby dies. Medical experts don't have clear-cut answers to what causes sudden infant death, or SIDS, but now they have 2 risk factors: smoking and drinking during pregnancy beyond the first 3 months. A new study finds that babies whose mothers drank alcohol and smoked tobacco after the first trimester are at far greater risk of SIDS, 12 times greater. Previous studies showed a risk of smoking and drinking individually. This study says doing both drastically increases the danger. The research is sponsored by the National Institutes of Health, which is calling for greater publicity about the danger and improved screening at the very beginning of a pregnancy. For more health news, go to foxnewshealth.com. House Call for Health. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News.
You could be spreading the coronavirus without realizing you have it, so do your part and stay home. It's important to limit in-person interaction with anyone outside of your immediate household, but phone and video chat are safe ways to connect. It's also important to limit social gatherings. If you need essential items like food and medicine, try using a delivery service. If you must leave your house for essential items, or if you want to take a walk for exercise, make sure to wear a cloth face covering. Stay at least 6 feet away from other people. Try not to touch frequently touched surfaces like light signals, street signs, or benches. And wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds as often as possible. This advice applies to people of any age, including teens and younger adults. It takes all of us to slow the spread of the coronavirus, so stay home unless absolutely necessary. Visit coronavirus.gov for the latest information.
Whether you're a Rebel, a Bulldog, a Golden Eagle, or just a sports fan, SuperTalk Mississippi has got a podcast for you. For you. Sports Talk Mississippi, the Rebel Report, Thunder and Lightning, the SuperTalk Eagle Hour, and the Borky Show are all now available for you. And it's all free. Get them all on demand at supertalk.fm and on your smartphone. Just search for SuperTalk on iTunes, Google Play, or anywhere you listen to podcasts.
The stay-at-home orders, the new state flag, the mask mandates, the protests and riots in many of our nation's cities, the battle for the White House. So far, 2020 has been a year like no other, and only one radio station has covered it all from a Mississippi point of view, SuperTalk Mississippi. And hang on, because who knows what 2020 will bring us next. Whatever it is, SuperTalk will be right here to deliver it to you live. Listen in all 82 counties statewide. SuperTalk Mississippi.
His love for the coast is why he's here. It's Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. That was a terrific conversation with the mayor of Orange Beach, Robert Kraft. He and the mayor of Orange Beach and I became really close as a result of my leading the Coastal Recovery Commission for Governor Riley after the oil spill. And man, it's amazing watching great leadership in action. And we're lucky here in coastal Mississippi to have great leaders. I hope having those conversations with Josh Morganman, who was in the eye of Sally, and then with Tony Kennan and then Robert Kraft, that it gives you a deep appreciation of for how close we came being in that same situation. And I think the important point here is that even if you have a meandering storm, you still got to pay attention to the National Hurricane Center. And, we could be next. So we have to look at each and every storm. We can't judge any future storm based on our experience in past storms. We have to look at this one in and of itself. In this particular case, this was a storm that had 30 inches of rain with it. That's what was going to be in Gulfport and Biloxi and in coastal Mississippi. And then the storm surge wasn't going to let the rain come out. So it was just huge flood event for these guys. And hope you enjoyed listening to them and you learned something from it. What great leadership they have, and they're really good friends. It was great to catch up with them. So now let's shift gears. Let's go to Glenn East, the superintendent of schools for Gulfport and a good friend of Coast View. Glenn, how you doing, buddy?
Doing well this morning. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Doing great. Now, look, we've talked a couple of times, and as I said to Robert Kraft when we were talking offline, you're one of the leaders in coastal Mississippi. You're innovative. You've done some amazing things in your school area, and you've been a leader for the state. You had a good plan, a good COVID plan coming into this. So let's talk just a little bit about, the plan. And then we'll shift gears and talk a little bit about your experience.
Let's do that, Ricky. First, let me just say one thing: 16 positive cases in students since school started. That's not bad. So we know what we put in place has been pretty good. Most of those did not contact trace to the school. They were outside of school, and we just had to mitigate them. So if you recall our conversation earlier, we went to a process where about 30% of our students are virtual, and the other 70% are on campus face-to-face. And so in that process, we had a very good mitigation plan where we put students on virtual so we could control community spread in our schools and our community. And then educationally, we have our virtual system with our teachers on swivel, which is more like their students are in the classroom. So she sees them, she's walking around the classroom with her students, and then also participating with those students that are virtual. So our teachers have done a yeoman's job, an outstanding job to this point, taking care of the educational needs of our little school district here.
That is so cool. You know, you talked about Swivel and using the technology that's going to be available to you. So that's basically going off without a hitch.
You can't say without a hitch. We got a lot of learning going on, but on a scale, I tell folks on a scale of 1 to 10, we're a solid 8.5 or 9. And the reason we're not a 10 is yes, we've learned a lot of things over the last 6 or 8 weeks. You know, we prepared this summer. You ran experiments trying to make it work, but then you have to also pull the students in. So very pleased with what we're doing, but there have been a few hitches on speed and how we teach, and teachers having to slow down and remember those students are on the computer screen and pulling them back in when they can. So overall, it's been a good experience for students. And then you have the internet connection that can come in and go out depending on. So we've addressed all those issues as we've gone through.
Well, you would expect there to be a learning curve. My gosh, it's been for teachers. For just teachers alone, the learning about the disease or the virus itself, and how to protect themselves and how to protect their class, and then if you have a student that tests positive, what do you do about that? How do you use this technology? How do we stay on track? Man, they've been tested in every way. And as I talk to superintendents across the coast, we've really, we do this. We have resiliency in our DNA. We rise to the occasion. But you have to be pleased with the leadership that your teachers have shown in making sure things progress.
Our building principals, our teachers, and our parents have made this work for the Gulfport School District. All three of those pieces, and the beneficiary is our students. And it's been a good, strong push. And again, like we've said, we've learned as we go. And I think at this point, we're comfortable. I will say at this point, you have what I call COVID-19 fatigue kind of wearing in. You know, it's like after Katrina, we worked hard to get things going. And at some point, you're kind of tired. And all this on us is doing that. So we're trying to find as many ways as we can to give some teachers relief to get through the year and keep that energy level going for the rest of the school year. So
it's got to be challenging. And then we had this hurricane threat from Sally. And I'm sure you were thinking, oh, Lord, how much more?
Yeah, our big joke around here is what's next, an earthquake? So anyway, we've dealt with all kind of things. And of course, fortunately, Gulfport's kind of on the high ground between the state lines. So we did not have to miss as much school as some of the lower lying school districts did along the coast. But still, it's a day away from education. It's all the stuff that's going on, and then another set of standards to meet to prepare for it. So yes, it can work on you.
What's your biggest surprise so far? I mean, just in terms of implementing your plan and getting 70% of the students back into the classroom, 30% still doing remote learning. What's your biggest surprise?
I think the biggest surprise is that 16 number. I really thought that that it could have been much bigger. We could have had more students impacted by this. But again, because the protocols we put in place, I think we saved it. So I guess it's the biggest surprise in the fact that the plan really has worked on taking care of the COVID-19 possibilities that could have happened in our school year. And again, and it's not a surprise, it's Gulfport, the resiliency of our students, our teachers, and again, you cannot leave out the parents. The parents that have students that are virtual, they're getting them started, they're going to work, they're coming back, they're following up with the school. The teachers that are reaching out to students during the day to make sure they're still focused in on their classes. Those are all things that just make you proud, I guess, as in a school district where the resiliency has clicked in and people are working hard to make this work.
I bet my daughter is a teacher at St. James, and they get used to wearing the face mask. I guess you can say they get used to it. That's probably one of the things that's the thing they wish they could take off the most. Do you have any issues with people wearing face masks?
Well, that was the big thing at the first, because everybody was going to have an issue. We ran a little summer camp where we had about 400 students. We all had them in face masks. And after about 2 days, it was gone, so to speak. Also, you got to understand that if you do have that symptom student or a student that may be tested positive, knowing that face mask is on, knowing that 6 foot distance has been sustained to the best of our ability, keeping those hands washed, if all pulled together. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think we would all have to take a face mask off and breathe and that kind of thing. But overall, it's been a very understood factor in keeping this community spread down. And I think students have stepped up.
It's interesting. You 16. That's a low number. That's a relative. How many total students?
About 6,400 students.
Wow, that's an incredibly low number. Healthcare professionals tell me that that most of the people at their institutions who get COVID didn't get it at the healthcare facility. They got it at home. And when you do your contact tracing, that's what you're finding, isn't it?
Very much so, Ricky. The most of the stuff is from a party or from high school kids going to get together. You can't blame them. You and I did the same thing growing up, but it's all most of being outside tracing. I don't think we have any at this point where it was an in-school tracing piece. But again, we've jumped on it. We've quarantined kids. We've put them on virtual for 10 to 14 days and kept the education going just to make sure. And of course, then you get the negative test and kids come back and we do what we need to do. So very proud of our nurses every day. Every day, those school nurses pounding it out, trying to make sure we're good. And then their principals and our district safety officers. So
we'll come back to the nurses after the break. This is Superintendent Glenn East from the Gulfport School District, and we'll continue the conversation on the other side of the break.
Listen live or on demand and watch episodes of Coast View on your laptop, desktop, or on your phone or tablet by going to supertalkmsgulfcoast.com.
SuperTalk. Nobody keeps Mississippi informed like we do. With 12 stations covering all 82 counties. If it happens in your state, we're on top of it. The news, the weather, the sports, and the talk that's important to you. The issues that matter to you, your family, and your bank account. It's all right here. And when you're away from home, depend on the SuperTalk app and supertalk.fm to stay in the know. We're proud to serve our fellow Mississippians. SuperTalk, Mississippi.
We know that we're asking Americans to do a lot right now. So we're asking everyone to be selfless for others so that we can protect those who are most susceptible to this virus.
A question I often get asked is why should young people care about the spread of coronavirus? Well, we know that people with underlying medical conditions over the age of 60 are at highest risk, but they've got to get it from somebody.
Social distancing is really physical separation of people.
It's what we refer to when we ask people to stay at least 6 feet apart.
Not going to bars, not going to restaurants, not going to theaters where there are a lot of people. It all just means physical separation so that you have a space between you and others who might actually be infected or infect you.
We all have a role to play in preventing person-to-person spread of this disease, which can be deadly for vulnerable groups. For more information on how you can social distance, please go to coronavirus.gov.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. We are with the fabulous Norbert Putnam as he played on so many hit records, you can't count them, and produced for some of the biggest acts ever. Norbert, Elvis.
And I want to tell you about Presley. He had two different voices. He would sit and talk to me in a very calm, low voice. And we were at Stack's one night, and we were having lunch. We always had lunch at midnight because he was nocturnal. We sat there and we have our sandwiches, and at 1 o'clock, he looked up. He said, "Hey, Put, come on, it's time for me to go beat Elvis." And he stood up, and a much deeper voice, he put on his macho voice. "Hey, fellas, it's 1 o'clock. Let's get cracking, okay?"
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, Amazon Alexa, and now on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be. There is no typical firefighter.
Everyone knows the only thing better than pizza is free pizza, and right now, buy a $10 gift certificate to CiCi's Pizza for only $5. It's like buying a pizza and getting a pizza for free. Go to our station's website or Facebook. Look for the Half Off Deals logo to purchase this amazing deal right now.
We give HPV vaccine to children at 11 or 12 years of age. I have 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls, and I've given the vaccine to all of them.
Get out of the house and over to Big Play today. 2 massive arcades, bowling, go-karts, 2 mini golf courses, a 2-story state-of-the-art laser tag arena, bumper cars, and right now get a $50 game card for only $25. Visit our station's Facebook and print on demand so you can play at Big Play Entertainment Center now. These deals won't last long, so make sure you get your half-off deal. Big Play Entertainment Center, Highway 90 Biloxi. Bowl, play, eat. Go to our station's Facebook to get your half-off deal now.
This is House Call for Health. There may be no greater medical mystery and no greater tragedy than sudden infant death syndrome. It used to be known as crib death. For no apparent reason, a presumably healthy sleeping baby dies. Medical experts don't have clear-cut answers to what causes sudden infant death, or SIDS, but now they have 2 risk factors: smoking and drinking during pregnancy beyond the first 3 months. A new study finds that babies whose mothers drank alcohol and smoked tobacco after the first trimester are at far greater risk of SIDS, 12 times greater. Previous studies showed a risk of smoking and drinking individually. This study says doing both drastically increases the danger. The research is sponsored by the National Institutes of Health, which is calling for greater publicity about the danger and improved screening at the very beginning of a pregnancy. For more health news, go to foxnewshealth.com. House Call for Health. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News.
Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen. Okay. Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi and now on Amazon Alexa devices. It's a great time to be on the coast, and we love talking about it. Welcome to Coast View with Ricky Matthews on Super Talk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. We have Glenn East, the superintendent of schools for the Gulfport School District, and a good friend to Coast View, a great leader in coastal Mississippi. And we're just talking about how things are going. And you talked about only 16 positive cases out of a large number of students and faculty and administration. An incredible job. The school nurse has got to be a super critical component to this plan.
I need to buy a Superman or Wonder Woman or Batman for them, or whatever kind of costumes to put on. They have done an outstanding job. So think about it. Every day they're doing their normal medication routines, checking kids for coughs and sore throats that they normally do. And now you have COVID-19 on top of it. And then we've got flu season starting here in a minute or two. So the bottom line is that they have done a great job, especially with the contact tracing. Where were you? Who were you with? Were you wearing your mask? Were you 6 feet apart? Were you playing in athletics? And so they are every day chasing down each of those contact trace, along with the other 2 members of the team, the principal and the safety officer, trying to make sure we keep our kids healthy. I've got kudos to them, shout out to them. They've done an outstanding job for the Gulfport School District.
You know, not only do they have their job to do, but they're kind of the resident expert on COVID. So if a teacher has a question, they play multiple roles, aren't they?
They play multiple roles on knowledge. They play multiple roles on keeping us calm. And I've never seen one not smiling. There must be a course in nursing school that says how to keep your smile in the worst situation that you're in. So yes, they're a great they're a great resource. They're great morale builders to say we're going to get through this together, and they keep us going. And then they have to help make that tough decision on whether or not to quarantine a group of students, and then call parents about please watch your child because of. So great group of ladies.
I know one, Stacy Waldrop. She's an old friend of mine, and you know we're just close friends for many, many years. But she's one of the most positive people I've ever met, and she loves what she does. Even in this moment, she still loves what she does. I bet she characterizes what most of them feel, how they think. All of them think that way.
She really does, and she's also one of our leaders. You know, she's been here a long time, taking care of our kids in the Gulfport School District, and so she's one that the moments can get tense, and she can just calm it all back down and move us forward because we're great experience and wisdom. And yes, all of our nurses work very hard to keep that positive attitude and really internalize their job of keeping kids in school the best they can.
Wow, so special. Hey, so look, we have COVID, and this is where we're focused today. But normally, just in the normal course of business, you got to deal with the flu. So when you combine COVID with the flu, it really makes things more complicated. So talk about that.
So here's the issue is, you know, that flu symptoms and COVID symptoms are very identical. I mean, you've got some saying fever, you've got congestion, you have some breathing issues if you're asthmatic. So that season's begin, you know, here on the Gulf Coast, that's an October start date for us. It seems like every year. And so we're in the process now of figuring out how we make sure we can keep these things separated, that we're not overreacting on the flu. And then also, you know, the allergy season starts. So those are all things as a district that coming up in the next couple of months are gonna make it even, I guess, tighter or harder to deal with, because the flu season is a natural season for us as we go through. So again, our nurses are gonna have to step up and help us on each case-by-case basis to be successful.
Glenn, in the short time we have left, I'm just curious, when you guys analyze the quality of education that kids are getting and their capacity to learn, have you seen a difference in the sort of the learning curve?
I think that initially we were concerned about that piece. I think we started off very strong. I will tell you that there are days that teachers are worried about individual families or individual students, and you're having to have counselors make that call at the end of the day to keep them charged up. It's that COVID-19 fatigue we talked about with faculty. Even students are that way. So in that virtual world especially, you know, they're pretty much handling themselves there. So we've had to do a lot of supports with family and parents to make sure that continues. I think that we're producing and we're distributing the strong information that we need to. Our first set of tests were pretty good, so we haven't lost much on that group. They're down a little bit. Let's not pretend about that, but there is some good strength going on. So I think we're going to be okay in the long run. And it's the words you mentioned before. It's also about resiliency. And so even if the math, science, English, and social studies scores aren't perfect, at least we're trying and the kids are trying, and that's a better thing for life. That's productive members of society. That's learning, and sometimes it just happens at a slower pace. So I'm comfortable and I'm very proud of what our teachers are doing with our kids.
Hey, listen, again, we're about out of time, but just real quick, as you talk to other superintendents across the coast and across the state, you know, what's your read on the state of affairs of the state?
And the group that I kind of hang around with and use for advice and so on, all the same things. We're battling through the same issues, very positive about what we're doing, worried about that fatigue a little bit and how we can keep those things going. So I think if you talk to all of the school districts around us, you're going to find we're producing a very good product and doing a lot of great things for our students. And the issue is going to be keep it going into Christmas season and then into next semester.
Wow, that's incredible. So look, Glenn East, Superintendent of Schools for the Gulfport School District, I hope you guys continue to have a great performance in this, you know, pandemic moment. We've all learned to operate in our new norm. And man, I hope you continue to have the same kind of results. It's great to hear that.
Thank you very much.
Okay, buddy. Have a great day.
Subscribe for free to the Coast View podcast on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.